Hey, what's going on, Snaps family? Aaron Murray here, and day 2 of No T-Bob. He continues to be on his incredible family trip down to Disney, dealing with 3 kids under the age of 6. I don't know how he does it. I think there's a lot of drinking that goes involved. But what you can do to make T-Bob happy during his trip, even more happy, is get us to 10K this week. The mission is on. We are oh so close to getting to 10K. Got to happen the next few days so we can send him some love all the way down there in Orlando. All right, we're going to shift focus today to a little Big Ten talk. Jake Butt, Adam and Breneman joining us right now. 2 guys that all Americans, one at Penn State, one at Michigan. You can find them on the Big Ten Network. You can find them on ESPN. Adam, I believe, has a FCS quarterfinal game this weekend, correct?
Correct, yep.
Where are you at?
I'm at Idaho.
Ooh, yeah, pack warm, brother. Pack warm.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one, man. It'll be. I'll be wearing my trench coat, my gloves, my hat. You know how it is.
Are you on site for that, Adam?
Yeah.
Nice, awesome.
Yep.
Ooh-wee. Yeah. I think I got a semifinal game next week, so I'm hoping that it's not anywhere. I had North Dakota State last year, but it was in the Fargo Dome, so I got lucky. I was indoors.
I went to South Dakota State last year, and it was about -2 degrees. The place was packed. I'm telling you, it was like I was amazed. There's something in the water in the Dakotas. I don't know what's going on, but they just breed tough people and tough football players.
Nothing else to do. Nothing else to do. Drink some beers, go watch some football. All right, let's give a little rundown. What's the plan today? So obviously we got our Big Ten guys in here. We're going to talk a lot of Big Ten football, break it down, some Michigan, maybe a quick I don't want to beat the playoff horse to death over here. I feel like there's been a lot of playoff talk over the past couple of days. I do want to get y'all's quick thoughts on it, just your initial reactions. Real quick, move on. We'll talk a lot about Michigan. Do they have a chance to win the national championship? Talk about that matchup. We'll get into Ohio State, the quarterback situation, all the guys transferring, and then we'll hit on some of the top bowl games: Ohio State, Missouri, Ole Miss, Penn State, Iowa, Tennessee. And we'll call it a wrap for our Big Ten boys. So let's jump right into it. Just your initial thoughts. I said, I don't want to kill this thing here, but your initial thoughts, each of you, because I like to get everyone's expert opinion, especially some Big Ten guys. When you heard the news that Michigan was going to face Alabama and not Florida State, that could have been a nice little cakewalk through the first round. Jake, what was your first reaction?
Yeah, at first I was frustrated a little bit, because I felt, Florida State had done enough. I disagree with not putting them in. I put myself in their shoes, and I know how frustrating that must be to feel you've done enough to at least play. I don't care if you think you're going to get blown out. I don't care. You've earned the right to let that happen. You've earned the right to at least compete. So at first I was disappointed, but then I just accepted it for what it was. And I started to think about this matchup and where Michigan's at. And, if you listen to Coach Harbaugh, he talked about this year being like a spiritual journey. And what is a spiritual journey? Really the past 3 years, it's about facing your demons, look at the previous ceiling that you've been unable to break through and break through it. Well, that was Ohio State. That was winning a Big Ten title, right? They broke through those ceilings. The next part of this spiritual journey, and in a sense, this is why it's a perfect matchup. It's winning a playoff game, and it's beating the best that the SEC has to offer. So if you're going to call it a spiritual journey, you can't blink in this moment. It's actually set up perfect for what your team's been preparing for this moment. So I really can't wait to see it. I think Michigan, all year, I felt they're the best team in college football. You got to prove that. You got to prove that. That's the opportunity they have down out there in the Rose Bowl.
Adam, your initial thoughts when you heard the 4 teams. Did someone get screwed? Someone was going to be disappointed, no doubt about it. I mean, hell, I'm in Georgia right now, and I get a bunch of Georgia fans pissed off that they're not in it.
I'll tell you who was disappointed was Jake Butt when he saw Michigan had to play Alabama.
You don't blink. Don't blink.
Listen, I think I've been struggling with it. You kind of got to compartmentalize it a little bit. I think that given the criteria for the committee, they got it right. Given that they are supposed to pick the 4 best teams and that they're allowed to look at injuries.
When did this all of a sudden say we're picking the 4 best teams? This is what I don't know.
All year long.
First time I've
all year long, Jake.
All year long. The past decade, has it been about arbitrarily picking the best 4? This is the first time I've heard this since.
I agree with Jake on this one. It never, because you had Ohio. The confusion for me has been from the very beginning of this year, you had Ohio State at 1 because of the resume, but then you had Michigan at 3 because they passed the eye test. Last year, or 2 years ago, Cincinnati got in because they deserved it, because they went 2 seasons, even as a group of 5 team, of winning undefeated seasons. Last year, TCU deserved it. No doubt in anyone's mind that Alabama was a better team. Hell, everyone thought Michigan was a better team. But I think to Jake's point a little bit, you still got to play the damn games.
Yeah, I think so. Like last year's, there was no one to compete with TCU after they lost. There was no one to replace that
Alabama
spot.
argument a little bit. Alabama lost by what, a field goal, 2 games.
But it wasn't like this year. It wasn't that big of a debate.
I agree.
Over that. It was so. I think my point is, and also Jake, like the day on Sunday, the College Football Playoff Committee posted a video with the chair of the committee talking about why it's the 4 best teams. Or what that they're looking for. Their job is to pick the 4 best teams, period. I agree that they've been inconsistent in how they've done that and how they picked it. But my point is that if they're picking the 4 best teams, they got that right. I think we can all sit here and say that play. If we're trying to crown a national champion,
why is Georgia not in?
Hold on,
this is what I'm saying. There's contradictions all.
I agree. Hold on. Let me finish my point. If they're picking the 4 best teams, and if we're sitting here and saying we want to crown a national champion, I think most people can agree that Alabama should be in that field if we're trying to pick who the best team is. But at the same time, I don't like the system, and I think Florida State, given if we had a good system in college football that followed, that made the games important, then in that case, Florida State would be in and deserves to be in. I can feel terrible for Florida State and feel bad for them, but still think that with the committee trying to pick the 4 best teams, that they got that right. That's what I think. And at the same time, I tweeted this. If they're actually looking for the 4 best teams, then I think the 4 best. I think Georgia's in the playoff. I texted Aaron about it on Sunday. I think then there's an argument for that the 4 best teams are really Michigan, Washington, Bama, and Georgia. That you can make that case for.
Not even Texas. Do you have Washington over Texas when it comes to the kind of the best teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think Washington could make a case to be number 1 in based on how they played all season long and how they played in the Pac-12 championship. But you know what I'm saying? Like that's my point, is that if Georgia does belong, if they're talking about 4 best teams, I think the committee got it right, and Alabama deserves to be in the playoff. And I feel bad and wish that didn't happen to Florida State at the same time.
Yeah.
When I hear us talk, I'm reminded how subjective football is, right? Like we can argue consistently about who's the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan or LeBron James. At the end of the day, you play the game, right? You have to play the game. And like they've even this year, just recently, they said, we're going to pick the 4 best teams. Aaron, you make a great point. Ohio State was number 1, and we all agreed that they were not the number 1 team. By their own standards for the majority of the season and for the past decade prior, it has never been about the 4 best teams until all of a sudden this past weekend. I have an issue with that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll turn the page. I got an issue with it.
It's an inconsistency. And I'll say this last point about Florida State, then we'll get to Michigan in the matchup in this football game. I played Auburn back in 2010 with Cam Newton, the Heisman Trophy year. That was not a good Auburn football team, but they had maybe the greatest college football player of all time. Like what he did to put that team on his back, that it was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I got to witness it in person in Jordan Hare, that freshman year. You take him off that team, that's a 6-6 team. I really like Jordan Travis. He's a great college football player. He's not Cam Newton. He's not. He ain't going to be picked in the first round. Hell, if he didn't get hurt, he might not even get drafted. He's like a 5th to 7th round possible free agent guy. Like really good. Love the story. Love the development. He ain't Cam Newton. He ain't some first round quarterback. That team was undefeated because they were good on both sides, because they had a great defense. They had an incredible defensive line. They got first round receivers. They had a great running back. That is a really good football team. That, maybe wasn't as good as if they didn't have their star quarterback, but he wasn't Cam. He wasn't out there winning games over and over again. So I don't know, man. It's a clear divide. I get both sides of the argument. Someone had to unfortunately not get in, and that was Florida State. All right, let's get into the matchup. Alabama versus Michigan. Obviously, like Adam said, I'm sure they would have loved to get Florida State in that first round, and kind of felt better about it, but Jake, when you look at what Michigan is this year and how they've been able to win and how they've been able to like mentally get through all the BS off the field and become, I would say, a more mentally strong football team, how does that suit them going into this game? And what do you like about the Wolverines?
Yeah, so really the first thing I go to with this is like, okay, we can have this conversation, but the fact of the matter is the matchups are the matchups, and now it's time to like actually just talk about the game. Like it is what it is. Okay. So when you think about this matchup, to me, the number one thing is I know you guys all cover games. In my conversation with defensive coordinators this year, the number one thing that was talked about for things that keep them up at night, that give them nightmares, is mobile quarterbacks. That is the number one thing that keeps
Mm-hmm.
defensive coordinators up at night. That's the number one thing Michigan has to be concerned about in this game. That defense is deep. They rotate six guys in the interior. They're four deep at the edge. They're 3-4 deep at the linebacker, deep at safety, deep at corner. They're extremely multiple in their coverage. You watch what they did against Ohio State to push coverage over to Marvin Harrison Jr. Those
Mm-hmm.
guys are highly intelligent football players. So this defense is set up to be able to handle that challenge. Offensively, what has got Michigan in trouble is in the years past, they just rely heavily on being able to dominate teams and just run the football. And then they
Mm-hmm.
hit a wall when they get to the playoff when you play a team that can match your intensity up front. And you realize they can't do that. Well, the benefit this year is JJ McCarthy, generally speaking, over the
Mm-hmm.
long term, has taken a stride, and the passing game has taken a stride. They're going to have to draw on that in this game. There's really no clear edge. These are two damn good football teams. It's going to be a close game into four quarters. For Michigan, it's going to be about overcoming that mental battle of are
Mm-hmm.
we good enough to be in that? Are we good enough to beat the best the SEC has to offer? Are we good enough to win a playoff game and a national title? I know they believe it, but there's going to be some plays that Alabama makes where that doubt creeps in, and they're going to have to overcome that. But I believe they're capable of doing it.
And I don't know the doubt too of because I've been dealing it with all week, and I've dealt with it obviously post SEC championship game of Saban versus the opposing coach. Saban, all of his championships, all of his success in the playoffs, and then obviously Harbaugh has gotten in the past 2 years, and kind of what Jake said, like they've been kind of progressing in a nice way of getting winning the Big Ten, beating Ohio State, getting to the playoffs, and then now putting together what I think we all could agree is probably their best team of the past 3 years, more balance on both sides of the football. But is Harbaugh good enough to take down the greatest of all time in Nick Saban?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, it's funny, Jake, you just mentioned the mobile quarterback thing. I just shot a video literally right before this talking about my key to the game for the Bama-Michigan game, and I talked about Jalen Milroe and the fact that Michigan hasn't had to face a ton of dynamic quarterbacks this year in the Big Ten. And as good as they've been on defense, I'm not sure that they've seen someone who can change the game the way Jalen Milroe can. Yeah. And, Milroe has had the big run against Georgia. He's got a 60-yard run on the year, I think, in one of the games. So that's a major key, and Jake makes a good point there. I keep coming back to Michigan, and all season long, man, in the big moments, when they face adversity, that roster just doesn't flinch. Mm-hmm. They haven't flinched ever, and it starts with JJ McCarthy. Like, he hasn't flinched at all, even when he hasn't played well. Did not play well against Penn State, but did what they had to do to win. And then two, Jake and I have talked about it a lot on our show, the growth of Sherrone Moore as a play caller and how he's just taken what's been there and hasn't tried to do too much and has been okay running the football 30 times in the second half in some of these games, just been so confident in what they do on offense. It gives me a lot of confidence in Michigan because to your point, Aaron, about playing Nick Saban, like there's a lot of human nature creeps in and you start to wonder, man, we're playing Alabama. Like, this is Bama. This isn't Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. This isn't Penn State. This is Alabama. And the doubt creeps in, but I keep coming back to the fact that they haven't flinched all year and they've showed up for the moment all year long, and it starts with the quarterback.
Jake, is as a Michigan guy, like, do you look at the head coach matchup and like, do you believe that Harbaugh can win this football game as a coach?
Absolutely. I Harbaugh is one of the few, like, he can coach football. There is decades of proof, massive stacks of proof. I mean, one of the few guys that did it in college and in the NFL. He's just, the next step for him is winning that championship. He got all the way to the doorstep of the Super Bowl, didn't get it done. He's been on the playoffs twice, didn't get it done. It is a trend, though, where, like, you have to get there. You got to familiarize yourself with the opportunity. And then sometimes those losses can be a good thing, especially when you return so much of your talent and your experience. Michigan, going back to this offseason, returned the 5th most production in college football.
Oh.
A majority of the team that was there last year is still on the roster this year. It's no easy challenge here, man. It is absolutely no easy challenge. Saban's got experience too, but there's no reason to doubt Jim Harbaugh or the Michigan Wolverines in this moment.
I want to get both your keys. Actually, I want to stay on Harbaugh real quick. Last one, Harbaugh. Then I want to get some keys to the game from both sides. Like Michigan wins if, Michigan loses if. If Harbaugh does win it all, Michigan wins it all. They beat Alabama, they beat Texas, they're watching the national championship, and Harbaugh says, you know what? I came, I conquered, I got my title. I'm done with all the NCAA bullshit. I'm ready to move on, and gets a job in the NFL, wherever it may be. Who's Michigan going after next? Like, is there any discussion of this? Any thought of like where could, because it's a hell of a program. You won a national championship, recruiting's going great. You're kicking butt against, obviously your big rival in Ohio State. It would be the premier job to get in college football. Who should they target? Who should they get? Have you guys thought about that at all?
I mean, you got to think Sharon Moore would get a look at it, right, Jake?
That's to me exactly who I think it would be. I find it hard to believe though that Jim would leave. I know every year this storyline picks up speed.
Come on.
I seriously, dude, I'm telling you, if they put a lifetime contract in front of Jim and make him feel, the only thing Coach Harbaugh wants is like to feel he wants to be compensated for his production and his wins, and he wants some flexibility to run the program the way he wants to run it. That's all Coach Harbaugh is asking for. President Santa Ono clearly supports him. Obviously, there's been some drama and disconnect. I think they get a deal done. But, yeah, I think it's Sharon Moore because some of these schools, man, seriously, like there is a certain type of coach you have to go after. Like you got to kind of know what it means to be a coach there. Well, Sharon Moore has proved that. I mean, 2 of the biggest games this year on the road, Penn State and Ohio State. There's nothing more you need to see at this point. So I'd imagine it'd be him.
I'm opening up the bank account for Kalen DeBoer if he does move on. Go steal him.
That wouldn't
from
be
Washington.
a bad one either. I think everyone would be happy about that one too. Yeah.
Adam, anyone on top of your mind, or you going with Moore too?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sharon Moore, right when you said that, is the top guy. I mean, I'm a big Dan Lanning guy. I don't know if he'd leave Oregon, but I mean, I think Michigan has the money to try to go after whoever they want. So like DeBoer, like you mentioned, Dan Lanning would be a great one. It'll be a job a lot of people want without a doubt. But as we've seen, like I think a lot of these coaches, I mean, I'm sure Texas A&M went after Dan Lanning with everything they had too, and he didn't bite. So I think we've seen that even with some of these jobs that have tons of money, if there is some kind of like off the field drama that they got to deal with, like if Jim Harbaugh leaves this offseason, that NCAA stuff ain't wrapped up. I mean, that'll be another year or two till that thing's done. So a coach will have to come in knowing what's going, knowing that there's some unknown about what happens with all this investigation stuff. So that'll be a factor for sure.
Turner Young in the chat. Appreciate the super chat. JJ McCarthy threw 2 pick sixes against TCU, bro. If Bama's SEC title defense shows up, JJ going to be pissing down his legs. I would say this, like I text Jake beginning of the season. I said, holy smoke. I didn't know JJ could throw the football like that. Like what I saw from JJ last year to what I've seen this year and some of the passes he can make, he ain't going to be pissing down anyone's or his leg for sure. That dude can absolutely wing it like anyone else in the country. All right, let's go before we shift to Ohio State and some of these other games. I need to know Michigan. Once again, Michigan wins if, and then also Michigan loses if. We'll start with our resident Wolverine first, and Jake.
Man, I think turnovers play just such a massive factor in this one. They played such a massive factor in the Ohio State game that it's been a storyline for so long. Really winning that turnover battle is going to be a key thing. Michigan really doesn't turn the ball over. So I think they'll be smart with the football, but if they can force some Alabama mistakes, that'd be critical. I also think like situational football is going to come in handy. I mean, when Michigan played Georgia in 2021, they went for it on a couple of those early 4th downs. They're used to getting those. Yeah. They didn't get them, and the game got out of hands real quick. So I think Michigan's they're going to have to convert on those and really win 3rd down when Bama's on the field, which of course takes into account Milroe's ability to run the football. You're going to want to stuff them, bring him down, and force Bama to punt. So I think those are the areas I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think for Michigan, a big key. We talked about Jalen Miller as a runner, and there's no really stopping him as a runner. You just got to try to contain him. But if there's one area Milroe's been inconsistent, like he's made mistakes, right?
Yep.
And can they force him into some mistakes with some pressure, get him off track, get him in 3rd and long? More turnovers happen in 3rd and long than any down in football, and force him into some turnovers. I agree with Jake. Turnovers will be a big factor. I also think, if Alabama is able to play too high and stop the run playing too high, it's going to be a long day for the Michigan offense, and because I do think McCarthy at some point is going to have to win the game throwing the football around. And can those Michigan receivers, Colson Loveland, their tight end, play a big factor and get open against Alabama? I think that'll be a big key. And if Alabama can stop the run playing too high, it's going to be a long day for the Michigan offense.
Well, that's what they did versus Georgia. They're able to stop the run, play a little bit too high, and
remember when Notre Dame
you can't win
Bama?
like that.
Yeah.
Remember when Notre Dame played Bama and Tyler Eifert? You could tell right away that he was like he had that dog in him. Remember that? He was like I want to see that out of Colston. That's what I think is the opportunity. I think he's got that potential. So I think you're spot on, Adam.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm guessing both of you Big Ten guys. Obviously, Michigan wins. Michigan moves on.
Yeah, I'm taking.
How could I pick against them? Of course.
Yeah, I got Bama. We'll see. It's gonna be a great game. Two very similar style football teams. And if you want to get to that game, go download the Game Time app. December's here. Basketball, football. You got a little hockey. If you're down in Tampa, go see my Bolts play. There's so many games to watch each and every day. But wouldn't you want to be there live? The best way to get your tickets is the Game Time app, the fastest growing ticketing app in the United States. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you the peace of mind with your purchase. They let you see the view directly from where you'll be sitting, so there's no guessing involved when it comes to your expectations when you get your butt in the stadiums. Their all-in prices also show you the total up front, so you know you're always getting a great deal, and it takes no time at all. Literally 2 clicks of a button on your phone, bam, you got the tickets. It takes all the guesswork out, so make sure you get the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and redeem code SNAPS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and enter code SNAPS. That's SNAPS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, boys. Ohio State. Interesting stuff coming out. A lot of guys in the transfer portal. A lot of 5 stars, a lot of 4 stars. Just what the hell is going on? I'll just ask big picture. Like, what is going on with Ohio State? Adam, any idea of like what the feel is there?
I mean, I think the feel is that Ohio State's in the major transfer quarterback market, and Kyle McCord at the portal. There's rumors. I don't know what the latest status is on like the Ohio State beat. There's rumors of Devin Brown being possibly transferring. I don't know if something might have came out while we're sitting here. So clearly Ohio State's going to go after one of these top guys in the portal that we're seeing right now, as I think they should. I like Kyle McCord. I think he won big games. That Notre Dame game, he won that game with his arm at the end of the game. But at Ohio State, man, like they've had some legendary great quarterbacks, and I just think the standard is a little bit higher than what Kyle McCord has done this season. And obviously losing to Michigan doesn't get the job done. So Ryan Day knows the pressure's there. He's going to go get a big time transfer. You think like Cam Ward, you think all these guys in the portal, there's so many now. I do think if Devin Brown doesn't transfer before the game, great opportunity for Devin Brown to kind of prove that he's worthy of that opportunity. He clearly played well in training camp. The fact that Kyle McCord had been there for a couple of years and Devin Brown was that close in competition in camp gave me concerns from the beginning about Kyle McCord, and shows a lot about Devin Brown. So if he looks great, then that's great. If not, they're going after a transfer quarterback. I think they go after a big time transfer quarterback no matter what. But this game will tell us a lot about their plan moving forward.
I think that's exactly. I almost wonder if this McCord news caught him a little bit off guard. We'll see how it plays out because they better have a big time transfer quarterback. I think Devin Brown is fine, but not to that standard you said, Adam. I don't think he meets that standard. And here's my concern is, I would bet on McCord's progression. If I just had as an outsider's opinion, I would bet on McCord's progression this offseason, allowing him to elevate his game more than I don't know who it's going to be. In
Yeah.
year one, where Ryan Day is effectively, man, his back's against the wall. Let's call it what it is. He's a damn good coach. He's won a lot of games. His back is against the wall. He has to beat Michigan. So it's a tough spot to be in at this point, man. And, you know, part of the issue with McCord is, you know, he said that Michigan game, he said it was just another game. That was one of the biggest issues with this whole situation. And it's not true.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go get a guy from somewhere else who doesn't really understand that how bad that comment actually is. So I don't know. I mean, I trust Ohio State. It's a desirable
this
place
is
to
the
go
interesting
play quarterback.
And this is the interesting point because there's no doubt in my mind that there was conversations had of, hey, we're going to go get some competition this year.
Yeah.
And I think it's a hard thing for a coach because you want to keep your roster intact. You want to keep obviously a guy that started there just in case there is this massive step from year one to year two, like a progression at the quarterback. Like, is he going to be a better quarterback next year than he is this year? Probably. Would it be good enough to beat Michigan? Would it be good enough to win a national championship? I don't know. Yeah. But at least we know it's going to be better probably with another year as QB1. But do you at least, if that did happen, do you at least appreciate Day letting him know that, hey, we're going to hit the portal and bring someone else in? Or should Day just kind of let that play out and not told him?
It's the hard thing to do as a coach, but it's the right thing to do as a coach. And I think you should choose to do the right thing as much as possible. You got to look a guy, because otherwise you lose trust in your locker room. You lose trust across the board. Look the guy in his eyes and say, we're going to bring in competition. I believe in you. I think you could do it. We're going to give you all the resources. But, you know, this is not a guaranteed spot right now.
Yeah.
I want the guy that hears that and says, good, I'll prove to you that I'm the guy anyways, you know, and McCord chose to take another route.
And two, I think it comes down to like self-awareness for Kyle McCord, right? Like if they're going after a transfer quarterback and just kind of understanding the situation. Like Jake, I think that like your point about Kyle McCord saying, I hear you and I'm going to stick it out. I think that's hard, man. Like in today's college football, to ask guys to do that when there is the transfer portal, when there is NIL money, and when so many of these top guys, look at the Heisman candidates, so many of these top guys are transfer quarterbacks who started somewhere and finished their career at multiple different spots because they're finding the best opportunity for them. So I don't really blame Kyle McCord. Like if they were bringing in a transfer and they're going after a Cam Ward or a Will Howard or like, that your back's up against the wall with that transfer coming in, and you only have so much time in your college career to prove it. So I think, hopefully it works out for Kyle McCord and he finds a good landing spot. Aaron, I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind, like what quarterbacks in the portal do you think would be good at Ohio State that you think, there's obviously like Riley Leonard who's probably going to get Notre Dame. You got DJU, you got Dylan Gabriel now. Who do you think fits there?
Well, and I thought you brought up an interesting point too. Just I want to hit real quick before I answer that is if you do bring in a transfer guy and it's going to be to the Ohio State caliber, that dude's getting paid, $1.5 million, $2 million. So like two for Kyle McCord, like this guy just came in and I know he's getting paid $2 million. How it's like the NFL. Like, that guy's getting paid more money. Yeah. Most likely he's going to be the one that he's going to give every opportunity to be QB1. From everything I'm hearing, I thought Dylan Gabriel would be a good one. But I don't know if it's already happened or I'm hearing a lot of chattering about him going to Oregon. Him going to Oregon. So I think he's off the board. I don't like Riley Leonard for that offense. I just don't think he's a good enough passer right now that he would fit into Ohio State. I know they want to get a little bit more, a guy that's a little bit more dual threat. They haven't had that since Justin Fields. So I don't know if he's necessarily a good enough passer to kind of plug in right now. If I'm them, Cam Ward's the only one that makes sense. Like I like Will Howard. He's all right, but if I'm going to spend $2 million on Ohio State and I have this standard, the only one to me that kind of checks off all those boxes would be Dylan, who, like I said, thinks like he's going to Oregon, or Cam Ward from Washington State. So I also do think that if you're going to go get a guy and he was in there, that's when you have the conversations. Like you feel pretty confident you can get someone of that caliber to come be your starting quarterback next season. All right, let's jump into the game real quick. I want to hit a couple of games with you guys before we let you go. Appreciate, obviously, you two jumping on with us today to talk a little Big Ten. Some great games in the bowls. Obviously, Ohio State versus Missouri. Missouri has a lot to play for. Ohio State, like we said, had a lot of guys, going to be some new positions, a lot of guys in the transfer portal. Can Ohio State overcome that against a very talented Missouri football team? Like, what's the overall feel for this game, boys?
I think it matters a lot more to Missouri right now than it does to
Yeah.
Ohio State,
Yeah,
you know,
it does.
that's something that simply that factors a lot into these bowl games these days. I mean, it's a crapshoot. Who knows? 10,000 things can change by kickoff too. Who
Mhm.
knows how many Buckeyes play and who doesn't? I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr., that's a third of their offense. They
Yeah.
threw it to him on third down like 2/3 of the time this year.
Mhm.
What if he doesn't play? You don't have a cord. It's crazy, man. I don't know.
It's funny because it's hard to even predict bowl game matchups right now when you don't know injuries, transfer portal, opt-outs, all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, and how much things can change. I mean, like you guys just said it, but I had Brady Cook, their quarterback, on my podcast last week, and bowl games weren't even announced yet, but like
Mhm.
you just get the sense that they are so fired up to be in the
Mhm.
position they're in. They cannot wait to play in this bowl game. Like I don't think they're going to have many opt-outs. They're gonna get healthy. And Ohio State's kind of in the everyone's transferring, and we don't even want to be in the playoff, not this game. Where Missouri's like, can't believe we're in this opportunity or we're in this
Mhm.
upward trajectory, and
Mhm.
let's keep the momentum going. It's a perfect opportunity for a team like Missouri to win this game.
I
And for
agree.
Missouri, they don't care who sits out or who doesn't from Ohio
Yeah,
State. It's
Mm-mm.
still Ohio State. Like it's
Mhm.
still we've talked about them as one of the best teams, biggest brands.
yeah,
Big Ten, Missouri, we're gonna go kick the Big Ten's ass. They don't
Mhm.
care about the excuses. Like that's their mentality going into this
Mhm.
game. It's tough, man. It's tough
Yeah.
to
Well,
overcome.
it's a similar one with, like, Florida State and Georgia. Like, it's still Georgia, but I think Florida State's a little bit different than Missouri, where Florida State has a couple first rounders that may opt out
yeah.
of this
Yeah.
game. So we'll see what Florida State does. All right, another Big Ten game out there is another SEC versus Big Ten matchup. We'll let Adam jump on this. Our former Penn State tight end, Ole Miss, Penn State. Obviously, new offensive coordinator for Penn State. Don't know if he's calling plays or not in this
Yeah.
game. But what do you expect from the Nittany Lions?
Yeah, so the new OC is not calling plays in this game. He's going to kind of just be around, do the acclimation period, and Penn State will roll with the co-coordinators that called the last couple of games. I think it's a big opportunity for Coach Franklin and for Penn State. In a season where a lot of disappointment, a lot of people upset about, they had a good year, 10-win season, but you lose your two biggest games, and not just lose, you didn't show up. You didn't play at least, you didn't play up to the standard in the two most important games of the year. Made the coordinator change. It's an opportunity to come out and really, number one, play together and show that this is a together team and program despite the outside noise. And two, get some momentum together going into this offseason. It's a big offseason for Penn State. I feel like every year we get on here and say that it's a big year for Penn State, right? Like this is
Yes.
the year. This is finally the year for Penn State. But now you got Drew Aller in year two. You got the running backs that are all back. You got a lot of talent that's around. And now you have the offensive coordinator, Andy Kolenicki, something like that. You have him as the offensive coordinator for next year. So I think it's a big opportunity to get some momentum on their side that they desperately need going into next season. I think too, like the one position group I'm looking at in this game, those two running backs, which are supposedly two of the best in the country. I know they are talent-wise, didn't play super well this year. Coach Franklin makes the point that they improved in pass blocking and they improved in all the little things, but they didn't dominate the opponents like they did last season. So I want to see Nick Singleton and Katron Allen get some confidence and have a huge day running the football, get some explosive plays on offense, and go into next season feeling really, really good about themselves. And they're playing an Ole Miss team that's talented and has good players and is really well coached. So it's gonna be a good matchup.
Jake, your thoughts? Penn State, or how far is the gap, and do we expect them to take care of business versus Ole Miss?
I don't know. I don't know that the gap is too far, but to me, they're like a little bit different of teams in the sense, like I see Ole Miss as a fiery offense, and I see Penn State as clearly a defensive-led team. But I'm curious, with you let go of your offensive coordinator for Penn State in the middle of the season. Now you have this period to breathe, catch your breath, and start to think about, what you want your offensive identity to look like in this bowl game. Like, can that help them or not? You're exactly right, Adam. You would like to build some momentum, but I mean, dude, Drew Aller's a 5-star. Nick Singleton's a 5-star. Like, they have talent on there. Also, like, will Olu Fashanu play in the bowl game? I don't know. Like, that might be tackle one in the draft. Who knows? So I think for Penn State, sometimes with these bowl games, it's more about planting a seed for the future than the actual end result.
the point.
The defense or the offense has to show some life.
Yeah.
We got a lot of SEC versus Big Ten bowl games, boys. So we may need to do some side bets here. Obviously, Missouri, Ohio State. We just talked about Ole Miss, Penn State, Auburn, Maryland, Wisconsin, LSU, Iowa, Tennessee, and then Alabama versus Michigan. This is like the SEC versus, the AFC versus the NFC, which college football is somewhat becoming, anyways.
Aaron,
the two big conferences going back and forth.
I saw you all year long, Aaron. You were not high on this Penn State team all season long. I saw him on TikTok. He was just blasting Penn State all season.
I don't I just think the offense was average. Defense was incredible, but they can't score points, and obviously it kind of played out like that too. So
you were right.
Those are some tough matchups
Drew
from the Big
go.
Ten's point of view now.
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't want to bet you all too much on that one. You know,
we'll check the spreads
next time we're together. All right,
we'll check the spreads. We'll check the spreads. All right, before I let these two guys go, obviously appreciate everyone jumping in the chat live with us here on a Tuesday. Make sure you go like, and don't forget the 10K is so close. We got to make it happen while T-Bob is there hanging out with Mickey and Minnie in Disneyland. All right, Jake. All right, Adam. Appreciate you both jumping on. Good luck. Enjoy the holidays, and we'll have to get you on here soon.
All right, man. Hey, Turner Young, I see your comments. I want to hear you comment back to me when Michigan gets it done. All right. I see all your comments down in the chat. I want you to say you're sorry when Michigan gets it done. All right.
All right. Well, let's hear real quick from our partners at DraftKings.
Can you believe that we're this deep in the NFL season? Well, check it out. We got to make every second count. And with the DraftKings Sportsbook app, you can make the most out of every game day. You can bet on your favorite teams for a shot at winning big bucks. And right now, new customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on any NFL matchup. That's right. Any NFL matchup right now, $5, you get $150 instantly in bonus bets. You want to bet your hometown team, you want to bet away. It's all there for you. And remember, if you're returning customers, always great game day deals and boosts and offers going down on the DraftKings app. And you can always do your multi-game or same-game parlay. So get in on the action with the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. You download the app now. Use the code TBOB. Okay, if you're a new customer, TBOB, new customers, $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on the NFL. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code TBOB. The crown is yours.
All right, everyone. Appreciate everyone spending some time with us here on a Tuesday afternoon. Once again, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tomorrow, we're going to go a little SEC flavor. My boy Cole Kubelik, who, as we all know, is all over the place when it comes to the SEC, going to be joining us to talk on the other side, a lot of Alabama, some of the big-time matchups for the SEC. So that will be tomorrow. Thursday, we'll get our boy Colin back, do some early lines with some gambling with some of these bowl games coming up over the next few weeks heading into the holiday season. So check back with us tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you then.